this is our shot. You know, this is a big shot. You know, people don't get this opportunity. So we take it one day at a time.
I'm a new artist, but I've been on the road for the past 2-3 years. I had a record deal since 2009, so I've been touring since 2009, just building my fan base and working. So, you know, you grow confidence. If you'd have seen me perform 3 years ago, you wouldn't say the same thing, but, you know, it's a growth.
I'd like to say that I made an iconic impact on my generation, like a Bob Marley did, like a Jimi Hendrix did, like Aaliyah did. People whose faces still sell on T-shirts. I want to be that iconic, like Michael Jackson.
Literally $1 in your pocket, piecing that up to go down the street, get some chicken. This wasn't handed to us by a long shot. All we had was the opportunity. And that was the opportunity to have a free studio to record in. You know, we appreciated that. That's all we had.
As soon as my album dropped, it cleared up like a lot of stress I had on me, like about the album, a lot of like pressure. And when it dropped and it did what it did, I was like totally free. So I had this first phase when I was in Europe, and I had a studio over there on the bus, and I had another phase when I came home. I go through phases. Like I had an LA phase when I was in the studio out here. And I just did, I had a studio bus, first time I ever had a real studio bus. So I had that phase. It's like wherever I'm at, I'm trying to create. And then what's happening is I get music from different parts of my life. It's crazy, like, you know, so you know, I'm just working wherever I'm at.
Do you agree? Do you feel like you dropped the album of the year?
I definitely feel like that.
Word.
You know, it's bound as hard work, you know, not to knock anybody else,
right.
But I know the work and the time that I put into this album. And, you know, months and you know, no sleep and just working in that studio, I definitely feel like, you know, I can't slight nothing away as far as the accomplishment and the accolades that, you know, the world is saying. So I definitely feel that way.
You know, it's people I can put on here that the label wants me to put on here, but I fight for this one reason, man. Like, I fight to promote what I love. You know what I'm saying? I fight to promote the music that I truly love. So when I get in the car, the rare moments that I get in the car, drive, you know, this is what I'm listening to. You know, other than myself, other than, you know, the family, this is what I'm listening to. So it's only right, man. Like 12,000 people tonight, Penn State. 13, yeah. The night after that, you know. Yeah, we about to uplift some spirits tonight, let these kids have fun, but.
J. Cole collabo mixtape. Do you feel like you two are kind of like the leaders of this new movement that's really about, you know, substance more than anything, you know?
Yeah, definitely. You know, we take pride in that too. You know, we take their responsibility, and we show that through our music. You know, that's the whole point and the whole ideal situation for us to continue this culture of hip-hop that actually has a full body of work, not just sporadic songs everywhere, radio songs.
It's 2012. Kendrick Lamar is readying his album Good Kid Maad City, which is set to finally release this year. J. Cole is already working on the follow-up to his successful Sideline story from last year, but this time he's hoping to do it with a lot more creative control and to make the album he really wants to make, regardless of the label. And Drake is riding high off the success of his album Take Care, which continues to sell and continues to produce singles. He's also preparing for tour with some very special guest openers. What's going on? My name is Jeremy Hecht, and welcome back to Passing of the Crown, a 16-part YouTube series diving into the big three in more depth than you will find anywhere else. If you missed 2009, 2010, or 2011, I will link the playlist right here. Go check those out and then come back to this video. I want to send a special thank you to all of the reactors who have been reacting to the videos and adding context. Specifically, Mac Wop dropped a super dope reaction to 2011 and even played an unreleased Kendrick song. So this series is getting new music out to the world. Well, new old music out to the world, which is amazing to see. So thank you guys so much for the support. If you do support and you're here watching, all I ask of you is that you hit the like button, leave me a comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes. But back to the story. Within the final weeks of 2011, Drake received his first real diss from a mainstream rapper, and surprisingly, it came from Common. Common released a song called Sweet where he seemed to throw not so subliminal shots at Drake the whole song. He was basically calling Drake soft on the hook in the verses. He made fun of Drake for singing and said he isn't hip hop, which isn't a new critique to Drake at this time. He was receiving it across the board. But he had never received it from a rapper of Common status, specifically in a song as a diss. A lot of people were confused as to where the beef actually stemmed from, but come to find out, like most beefs, it stemmed back to a woman. And not just any woman. a very high-profile one. Common felt like Drake had sent subliminal shots towards him on some songs, paired with the fact that they both had a romantic relationship with Serena Williams. Let me know if there are any subs that you guys caught on Take Care that could be directed towards Common.
I felt like Drake was sending me a couple of shots.
Subliminals?
So subliminals. He was sending...
Y'all be at the light-skin karate class.
I don't know what motivated him to send me some shots, but I think what for sure had me, if I'm just being real, like, you know, we mess with one of the same girls, blah, 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 the same story, yeah, same story that you hear a lot about it. Right. So, you know, wars happen over women.
The only ones that I thought maybe he could have taken in that context were On the Ride. What you order to forget about the game that you're on top of, your famous girlfriend ass keep getting thicker than the plot does. I mean, who notoriously had and was famous? So anyways, he references Serena in verse 1, and then on verse 3, he says this: "You dudes is getting older. I see no threat in Yoda. I'm out here messing over the lives of these dudes that couldn't F with my freshman floater." And then he closes by saying, "My sophomore, I was all for it. They all saw it. My junior and senior will only get meaner. Take care." Now, context of Common listening to this and hearing him talk about his famous girlfriend who he knows is Serena Williams, and then also saying that he's out here messing over the lives of these dudes who couldn't mess with his freshman album, and basically saying they're getting older, he's on top now, it's his time, but also I'm banging your girl. I can see how Common might take that as a subliminal, but let me know if there's other bars that you might think could have sparked this. But to start off 2012 on January 6th, Drake features on Rick Ross's Stay Schemin', and he replies with a verse directed towards Common. This is the first time that Drake was really battle-tested in the public. He had some little back and forth before he was super famous in Toronto, but this is the first real mainstream battle. And I think this was a big moment for a lot of fans to take him seriously as an MC, especially since a big part of Common's diss was also how a lot of the mainstream hip-hop heads might have felt about Drake looking soft or not being hip-hop or using too much melody at the time. And here he stepped up to the plate and delivered one of his best guest verses of all time, if not the best guest verse of 2012, one of them, and in my opinion, probably one of his better guest verses ever. But let me know where you rank it in the comments and what your thoughts were when you first heard the verse.
I remember we were at Ross's house and he was playing me his project, and he just completely was like, "Oh yeah, this is like a song that me and French were working on." And I heard it and I was like, "Yo, this is it." Right. For me, this the right. It just, again, it was a rap record with bars that was wavy, that had a hook. That's very rare and very hard to come by. Like it was pure bars, but the hook kept you engaged. The beat wasn't some like boom bap, like granola shit that like, you know, made you like, yeah, just like some like dry ass. Like it had a wave. It sounded like nighttime in the whip. Yeah. And yeah, I took the record back with me to the hotel. I think to the studio I was at. I did the verse that night. Maybe I might have done the verse at Ross's house. We all went to get changed and shoot the video.
It bothers me when the gods get to acting like the broads. Guess every team doesn't come complete with dudes like ours. I see no need to compete with dudes like y'all. I just ask that when you see me, you speak up. That's all. Don't be ducking like you never wanted nothing. It's feeling like rap changed. It was a time. It was rugged. Back when if a dude reached, it was for a weapon. Nowadays, they reach just to sell their records. Might look light, but we heavy though. You think Drake will pull some shit like that? You never know. Now, this was also a big line in contention, like Drake acting tough. Specifically on headlines, a lot of people said, you know, Drake was talking like a mafia boss. And here, he's kind of responding to that too, saying like, you think Drake would do something like that? You never know. I know that line in itself caused a lot of controversy at the time. But here's where he was replying directly about Serena. Thought he wanted to tell me secrets about a rap dude. I tell that bitch it's more attractive when you hold it down. Kobe about to lose 150 M's. Kobe, I hate it had to be him. Bitch, you wasn't with me shooting in the gym. Bitch, you wasn't with me shooting in the gym. He's basically saying, listen, I know about you from Serena, and I'm actually the one who's telling her, you don't need to tell me all that stuff about Common. So clearly, this would spark a response from Common.
They dropped the Stay Schemin', and my homie called me Black Coffee. And he was like, man, he talking to you on that. And at that point, I was like, man, I can't even, I just gotta.
Over the girl.
I just gotta.
I think you're mad.
No, it wasn't even a girl.
See the shot on Stay Schemin'.
We couldn't tell, like, cause that's what it, so that's why I was like, no. We couldn't tell, so that's why I was like, hey, I'm gonna let you know, like right now. This what. So if you coming at me,
like,
you gonna know who it is. I'm coming at you. I'm coming.
I also, interestingly enough, did ask Lucian Grange once on a red carpet, my first ever red carpet with Hip Hop DX, about this bar where Drake said, "Tell Lucian I said fucking I'm tearing holes in the budget." I asked him if that was a real phone call that he gets from Drake, like, hey, I need more budget. And Lucian at that point said,
I have one specific question about a lyric that I want to ask you. So on Stay Schemin', Drake says, tell Lucian I said fuck it, I'm tearing holes in my budget.
Tell Lucian I said fuck it, I'm tearing holes in my budget.
Did Drake call you up after that and say, hey, I need more money for my project?
If ever Drake or whenever Drake calls up and says he needs more money for his project, I give it to him.
That's probably the right.
Because he's the greatest.
This was 2020 when I asked him. So, you know, Drake is their guy. I think they had just re-upped that $400 million contract shortly afterwards. So clearly he did give him whatever he wanted in terms of money at that time. Common replied with a remix of Stay Schemin', where he called Drake Canada Dry, which I still think about sometimes when I drink Canada Dry. I'll think about Common's Stay Schemin' remix because it was great advertising for the ginger ale brand. Honestly, Canada Dry is great. Okay, Canada Dry is a great drink. Especially, you know, a hot day, you pop open a Canada Dry. You know what I'm talking about. I haven't been drinking the last year. A Canada Dry at the bar with a little lime. You know what I'm saying? Common said, everybody know you sweet. What the problem is, don't play dumb. I'm the one that acknowledged it. Son of a B, I imagine what your father is. She said, how you make your opponent the rapper of the moment. His style, he don't own it. Acting all hard when he hardly like that. You gon' mess around and make me catch a body like that. Ooh, don't do it. You wasn't a bitch because you sing. You a bitch because you cling like a bitch that's 18. Can't say my name but rap about a dude's wife. I'm taking too long with this amateur guy. You ain't wet nobody. You Canada Dry. From there, we never got a direct Drake reply, but I'm sure there were more subliminals on some verses afterwards. If anybody can spot any, let me know. At the time, I remember thinking these were really hard bars from Common too, so it was a very solid back and forth. So it wasn't like Drake came out here and washed Common away or anything like that, but I think a lot of people did look at it like, okay, he's ready to compete at that level when someone does challenge him. Meanwhile, J. Cole rented out a house in LA and is working on the follow-up to his debut album, Born Sinner. Cole brought out producers and musicians and was finally working on an album from scratch. He'd used almost all of the songs he was saving for his last two projects, and with the pressure off of him to create this hit for the label, he could now create the album that he actually wanted to make, but he had to do it from scratch with all new ideas. And he wanted to showcase where he was at in his life now. But it wasn't just Drake. Cole got into his first ever back and forth as well, with a shocking target, Diggy Simmons. Yes, 2011 XXL freshman Diggy Simmons and son of I've Run. I actually liked a few Diggy songs at the time. I'm just going to say it. But Cole allegedly talked about a fling that he had with Diggy's sister on an unreleased song called Purple Rain. They did go to school together at St. John's. There were some comments made back and forth and maybe some bars back and forth, but in February, J. Cole released Grew Up Fast, where he jokingly aimed a couple lines at Diggy and said this: move along, ain't nothing to see. Unless you talking about blockbusters, you dudes is not Russell, you more Diggy. Me, I'm more Biggie. No diss to the young boy, I'm just rapping, get bored quickly. Just to make up for that line, invite him on tour with me, show him the game, let him finagle these whores with me, run through the doors with me, hit the Ritz-Carlton for the night, leave him there with two dykes, probably change a dude's life. What up, Vanessa? I loved you that one semester. Thanks to my profession, I balled like Uncle Fester. Diggy probably didn't take too kindly to these bars, and he had recorded a diss track that ended up leaking where he aimed at Cole. Cole didn't respond in an official capacity, but he did respond with this freestyle, ironically, on stage with Kendrick Lamar, and I think he ended the beef.
Talent album flop, but it's cool. He caked out on his allowance. I was out in Vegas. Kicks was the latest. Bitch was the baddest. Her head was the greatest. Only one thing that I ask of you haters, you can't diss a nigga if you got him on your playlist.
In February, MTV released their 2012's Hottest MCs list, where Drake was number 2, and Cole and Kendrick were nowhere to be found on the list. Even though, in reality, at this point, I do think that Cole deserved to be on that list. If you look at his success the previous year with Sideline Story and his buzz at the moment, I think he did deserve a spot. And Kendrick, of course, would top that list the next year after Good Kid Maad City, but That's a whole nother story. We'll get to that in the next video. In an interview Cole did with Bootleg Kev, he did say it bothered him, and on his Inevitable series, he said that it felt like the mainstream publications weren't showing him the respect that he felt he deserved at that time, or that he was being overlooked. Cole had other things to worry about that month because he was at All-Star Weekend receiving an alley-oop from Kevin Hart that actually became pretty legendary.
One-on-one, yes. Any type of movement, it becomes a problem. Movement, it's over with. Oh, we just saw him dunk.
J. Cole rising up on the alley-oop feed from Kevin Hart. It's a cold world right now.
Somebody in the comments said that they were going to tell their kids that this was LeBron and D. Wade, and I thought it was pretty funny. That same month, Cartoons and Cereal ended up leaking, which was a Kendrick song with Gunplay, and the reaction was pretty crazy.
So, man, holla at us about that Cartoons and Cereal real quick.
Hell
man.
yeah, shit. Matter of fact, I'm gonna try to, I should have been hit this nigga Gunplay. I want to get the video done for that motherfucker, so we've been talking about it. I know I'm going to Tallahassee tomorrow. That's not too far. Hopefully I can get that dude out to put the pieces, the final touches on them motherfucker, because once we threw it out there, it was really killed the streets, man. That was something for the album, actually. And we just felt like, you know, shit, they need that now. So it went out there, that motherfucker did what it did, and it's going crazy, so we love it.
It was initially supposed to be on Good Kid Maad City on the album, and if you listen to it, you can see how it might fit into the context of that storyline. But Gunplay was dealing with a lot of legal trouble, and there were some clearance issues, so it didn't end up on that project.
This is the legendary Fruity Pebbles. None of that bullshit ass Cheerios with the no sugar. What's all that healthy shit? Raisin Bran? Stop talking to me. Don't talk to me about no fucking Raisin Bran, dog. Wheaties? Stop it. Don't talk to me. You pick that up in the aisle walking with me, I'm liable to punch you in your face if you was my cousin. The crunch is always one of a kind. I'm laughing and shit, I'm serious. And let me show you what I do. I eat that one crunch just to get the feel of the shit, and I just let that shit sit.
Motherfuckers, all y'all can suck my dick. All them days at the...
Bring it back after a minute, 60-40 rule. I like half of my shit 60% soggy, and the other 40 crunchy. Now you be able to blend that shit in. Fire back. I got this shit down to a science. Stop talking to me. Science. I got this shit down to a science. Talk for hours about this shit. I mastered this shit.
Meanwhile, also in February, the Club Paradise Tour kicked off, and opening up for Drake were A$AP Rocky and none other than Kendrick Lamar. Here's what Kendrick had to say about his experience on that tour.
Than I had 6 months ago with a whole nother demographic, you know, of people listening to my music. You're definitely going to capitalize off that. Shout out to Drake. You know, he reached out. How did that happen? You know, I sat down with Drake in Toronto a while back when I did my first show out there. He called me up, man. We had a few drinks, and you know, he always said he was you know, appreciative of my music. You know, I always been a fan of his music, and we've just been chopping it up since, man. And you know, he'd be up one day and say, you know what, handpicked, man. I want you to be on this tour with me. And you know, it's a lot of artists out there, man. You know, that could have been on that tour we're doing. For him to just, you know, sit there and respect my music, get the same mutual respect. That's a blessing within itself. So shout out to Tristan.
How important was that tour, like, you know, some time now that it's been since you were on the tour? How important was that tour to you, and like, you know, where you're at right now?
That tour was a great advantage, and you know, I shout out Drake every time for letting me see that, you know, that type of atmosphere. Because what happens is it warms you up, you know, for what's to come. Everybody want to get bigger and want to get better and have a broader audience. But, you know, when you get to that level, some might not know how to control the audience, you know, and that's a tough job to do, you know, to have, you know, a arena full of people, you know, in tune with every song, every movement, you know. So it was really like, I want to say scrimmage, you know, by the time my next album come around, you know. Hopefully I'll be at be on them leagues, right?
So you kind of saw how Drake did it, you know, like, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
It's educational, like,
right. That's a whole nother world.
And Kendrick would rap this freestyle every night, introducing himself to the people.
My plan B is to win your hearts before I win a Grammy. My name is Kendrick Lamar. My words like a sword in the hands of a Spartan marching on Rosecrans and Compton. You can't cause conflict or corrupt my spirit. I'm on point like Pyrrhot. I've been there and gone before you get near it. Ooh wee. That boy remind me of a young Martin Luther. The way piece of truth was around of shooters like Malcolm X did. I stand for what I believe in. That's family, God, and honor. From Chicago, my daddy and my mama. They came to Compton to accomplish one thing. Reign supreme, raise a king named Kendrick. I ain't lying to stand for king and I am one. My unborn son and grandson will live royal. From the coochie you to the soil. The meek shall inherit the earth. Well, I had this world since birth. Feel the good kid songer. The Crips made strong. The Pyrus made stronger. Muscle in my heart. I stare in the eyes of Mozart and tell him I'm the genius. I love myself and I hug myself because I mean this with all my soul. And you can't control greatness unless you hating with the heart of Satan. But even that can't stop it. I tell a nigga get out my wallet and put passion in your logic. Passion in your life. The passion of my Christ is in me. If you say it ain't, you may offend me. Damn, that boy good. I'm bright as Thomas Edison, but I'm Gucci manhood. I stood alone, prolonged my whole career, but now I'm here. You can shoot shots of cheer, cause New Orleans, I'm Kendrick motherfucking Lamar. Love y'all.
There's actually footage of Kendrick, A$AP, and Drake all hanging out backstage.
Yeah, it's rare that you meet people, man, like with talent and then like a mindset and then just like an immediate loyalty to go with that talent, you know. So when I met A$AP, like I've said it in interviews, you know, to whoever asked me, you know, I'll say the same thing, man. Like this guy right here, just right off the bat, did one of the kindest things anybody's ever done. Like came to check me, brought me a bottle of Chris. You know what I'm saying? Got me back drinking Chris. Like, fun that. So, you know, it's people I can put on here that the label wants me to put on here, but I fight for this one reason, man. Like I fight to promote what I love. You know what I'm saying? I fight to promote the music that I truly love. So when I get in the car, one of the rare moments that I get in the car, drive, you know, this is what I'm listening to. You know, other than myself, other than, you know, the family, this is what I'm listening to. So it's only right, man. Like 12,000 people tonight, Penn State. 13, yeah. Yeah, the night after that, you know. Yeah, we about to uplift some spirits tonight, let these kids have fun, but you know, good time, man. I feel like everybody on this tour just has it right now. I feel like this is a moment in time. So, you know, I'm honored this man accepted. I'm just happy to be here, and I'm honored to be here, man. You know,
He even referenced the decision to take them on tour with these bars on 4 p.m. in Calabasas and said it was something that even his label didn't want him to do, but that he wanted to make that decision for hip-hop. Even back when I wasn't as poppin', when they told me take an R&B dude on the road and I told them no and drew for Kendrick and Rocky, I tried to make the right choices with the world watching. Talking about that decision to Elliott Wilson in an interview, shout out to my co-host, Drake said this: "I'm confident and happy with my career, which allows me to listen to people without bias, without feeling any kind of way. With Take Care, I sort of solidified my lane, what I do, and the artist I am. So in just keeping my eyes open, I found two guys that I enjoyed their music, and then I got to meet them, and I enjoyed their movement and had respect for the people that they are. I like what they stand for. I said to myself, it would be great to embark on a nice, young, refreshing journey with these guys, as opposed to teaming myself up with somebody who could sell me some tickets. But luckily, and I do say luckily because it is a blessing, I don't really need anybody to sell me any tickets. A lot of the shows had been sold out before I added anybody. It's not to say A$AP and Kendrick didn't sell tickets or that people weren't excited, but I got to pick artists I actually liked. It wasn't a label or Live Nation telling me, this is who you need to pick so we can sell these shows out. We all get along and respect each other's direction and craft, and we're all so different, which allowed us to get out there and embrace each other just on some young, revitalizing shit. It was the best tour I've been on to date." Kendrick even admits that his audience grew from that tour. He went from doing about 500 to 3,000 people to the Drake shows, which were 10,000 to 20,000 people at the time. I mean, he even sold out the O2 Arena back-to-back nights in London, which is 18K people each night. And apparently they said he could have done a third night.
I'm on this motherfucking Club Paradise tour, matter of fact. Tallahassee, 2 more hours, we gotta drive out. Kill that shit. My nigga Drake, TDE, Hot Power in this motherfucker, you know?
How that been, man? That's been crazy, right?
Hell yeah. Stupid. Like the transition of me doing the 2,000 venues I've been doing packed in is a little sketchy for me doing this 10,000. I gotta really work some motherfucking magic and step my game all the way up, but it's a challenge. I love it though. So nigga Drake holding us down, you know what I mean, pulling us out there to see this motherfucking crowd that we ain't seen before, me and A$AP, Chase. It's a lovely movie, man.
He also headlined Wireless that year, bringing out The Weeknd and Nicki Minaj with 65,000 people in attendance. Rosenberg even asked Kendrick how he felt about touring with Drake, who was the bigger artist at the time, and asked if he felt any pressure to switch up the type of music that he makes just to appeal to a crowd that size or to gain an audience like Drake had.
This is what brings about an interesting relationship of yours. I have to say I was excited and concerned when I heard about you touring with Drake. Yeah. I was like, that's dope, that's dope. Then I was like, well, I hope he doesn't hang with Drake too hard because, you know, Drake is a dude who, the space he's in musically right now, you know, it's cool. There's a place for it, but Drake isn't exactly doing what we thought he would, what many of nerdy backpackers like myself thought he might be doing a few years ago.
Right.
And I won't lie, definitely crossed my mind. I was like, damn, I hope Kendrick doesn't get co-opted by the radio scene that Drake is caught up in right now. So how do you balance having a relationship and touring with someone when musically you're really in a kind of a different space than Drake is in?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it goes back to what I said the first time. I got to have a vision. You know, me being 17 or 19 years ago, I'd have easily been manipulated, you know, by being on stage with a person that sold millions, you know, in front of millions and sold millions of records, you know, every night. And seeing people, seeing that crowd, that sea of people, I'd have easily, you know, try to transcend what I was doing and compromise what he was doing.
Because there had to be nights when you got on stage before him, and obviously I know every night you rocked. I'm sure there were people who came out for you, but I'm sure a larger part of that audience was for Drake. And there were nights when you're out there doing your songs, and cats weren't reacting the same way they would be if you were doing something that was much friendlier to them.
Definitely.
You have to have some confidence.
That's a challenge within itself.
Right.
And I already knew I was gonna go into the situation being able to challenge myself, because I'm used to doing, you know, a crowd of 3,000, and this was no radio, no album, or no promotion. So I'm figuring, you know, that's good for me, you know, in the world that I'm in as an artist. And when you put up against 10,000 people, you already got to be prepared mentally to know what you're up against. You got to have nothing but confidence and to win over at least 10 people at a time at a show. You know, you're not going to get everybody. But if I figure if I'm doing 30 shows with this dude and I can win over at least 100, you know, that's a bigger stepping for me and my company. So that's how I look at it.
But Drake was conscious of wanting an audience that size and wanting to appeal to the masses. He really did want to be the biggest artist in the world, and it's clear in his interviews. In that interview with Elliot, he said this about not just focusing on just being considered the best rapper and wanting to make music for the masses. He said the names don't mean anything. This was in reference to him working with a bunch of big names on Thank Me Later. If the songs aren't good, they're not good. If me and so-and-so don't make a bunch of music like me and 40 would, or me and Jamie XX would, that moves people that I can come to Berlin and do for 8,000, 9,000 people, or go do 30,000 people in London, if it's not going to work, then what's the point? Who am I doing it for? I'm basically doing it for your website, which was Rap Radar at the time. But it is clear that on some level, Drake still did care about being respected as an MC. Even if he said it didn't bother him, you could tell that that was one of his goals, and it did matter to him. After Kendrick and A$AP finished their legs, J. Cole joined the summer leg of the tour alongside Meek Mill and Waka Flocka Flame. And ironically, J. Cole and Kendrick furthered their musical relationship while Cole was on that tour. There was a delay during the Raleigh, North Carolina stop, so Kendrick flew down to Fayetteville, and the two worked together on their collab project while on Cole's studio bus. He came to Fayetteville, and we worked on that studio bus for 2 or 3 days. Before, I had sent him joints, but this was the first time we actually got to lock in and work on shit. And that shit was so fun, dog. It felt like when your cousin would come over to your house. Kendrick even played Cole some of his album Good Kid Maad City at the time, but this was the first chance that they had to really lock in together like that. In terms of the tour, Cole said that even though it was Drake's tour, he had some diehard fans out there rapping his lyrics every single night, which was obviously encouraging.
So how's the Drake tour going?
It's good, man. You know, we at the early stages. It's fun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Words, a lot of rappers.
A lot of rappers.
A lot
It's
of
such a
rappers.
hip-hop tour.
It is, man.
Rappity rap popping
It's
off.
dope. I think we scared Live Nation a little bit.
Hey, for real.
Word.
I know you and Drake, you guys share a lot of the same fans. Is it kind of cool to go on tour and see? I mean, that's a big tour. You know, that's a big
Yeah,
audience. Singing some, you know, your album. You know what I mean? That has been anticipated for so long. Finally
Word.
came out in September.
Absolutely.
What's that like, man? Seeing people really vibe to the
It's dope, man.
the hard work.
It's an incredible feeling, you know, to be, you know, when you do the singles, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? Like, but to be able to do a few of the album, because I only got so much time on the stage, but to be able to do a few of the album joints and to see people in the crowd that know 'em word for word. I do Dial in a Dream and they know it. You know what I'm saying? And the real cool thing is, like, I mean, I don't know how cool it is for them, but like, you know, the ticket prices kind of determine where you're sitting, right? So it's like you got these people in the front who are diehard Drake fans, and they paid top-notch prices,
big-
like just
big
like
paper.
VIP level,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So and even some of them, like a lot of them know like word for word. But the real crazy thing is, like, if I squint my eyes and I look way in the back, you know, 'cause we doing like amphitheaters or whatever. Way in the back is like a bunch of like diehard fans. You see the Cold World shirts, like, so my fans is kind of like
They there.
Like they paid $800. Like they couldn't go to the 250 or whatever.
They couldn't be
however
right in the front, but they rocking with you, man.
But they all the way there in the back, so it's love.
Cole continued to drop Lucy's, releasing The Cure, where he rapped over Kanye and Jay Beat from Watch the Throne. He had a verse on the Drank in My Cup remix, which I loved at the time, and a verse on the remix for Beyonce's Party. He also dropped Visions of Home and a couple more SoundCloud Lucy's. While Cole was dropping unofficial singles, though, without the pressure of the label and working on his next body of work, Kendrick was gearing up for his official release. On July 31st, Kendrick dropped Swimming Pools, the second official single from Good Kid Maad City after The Recipe with Dr. Dre. The craziest part about this song was I remember kids were pre-gaming to this song, drinking and getting drunk and turning up to this song, even though Kendrick is so genius that he coded this turn-up song with messages about the dangers of drinking. I remember I was the guy at the party telling the girl, like, she's singing this song. Oh my God, I love this song. I'm like, you don't even understand, though. This song is really about the dangers of drinking and why Kendrick doesn't drink now, because the trauma that it caused in his family. He's actually saying we don't need to be drinking. And you know what? Enjoy the song. It's funny because I didn't drink at the time, so it was even more relatable. I even made a remix to Swimming Pools at this time. I was talking about not wanting to drink. I'll see if I can find it. I'll insert a little piece of it.
Pour the drink, dive in it, step into the spot as a vibe with it. I'm thinking that I might pass out for the night soon, but I need 5 minutes. I need less tweeting, more living, less rappers, more women, less bull, no Jordan, Pippin, less drowning and more sipping. Okay, if I'm the feature, you're a rental man. These rappers biting me, I think they need a dental plan. They taking shots at me, someone should call the doctor. Please need a shot to get lost. Since he's swimming, I let the vodka speak. Take a shot at me, you're about to be on top of the world, just try to see. Come on, hype, just go there, don't be scared, I'll lead the way. There's drinkers partying, there's no point in seeing straight. I usually only sip beer, but then I hear the people say, why you babysitting, only 2 or 3 shots, I'ma show you how to turn it up a notch.
The song peaked at number 17 on Billboard, number 3 on the US Hot R&B and Hip Hop Songs chart, and ended up going 4 times platinum in the US. Kendrick ended up winning Lyricist of the Year at the BET Hip Hop Awards later that year over J. Cole, Nas, Jay-Z, and Kanye West.
Lyricist of the Year. Jay-Z, I'm talking about Nas, I'm talking about Kanye West, I'm talking about my homeboy J. Cole. But for them to give me Lyricist of the Year, I know for a fact that I didn't do this alone. God and you motherfuckers out there. So with that being said, I'm really this. That was the first step. Tonight is for everybody to understand me. I need you to recognize my plan B is the way y'all have perform with the Grammy. My name is Kendrick Lamar.
While at the BET Awards, Drake won Male Hip Hop Artist of the Year, and Big Sean won Best New Artist. But speaking of Sean, on September 5th, both J. Cole and Kendrick had standout verses on Big Sean's Detroit mixtape, which is still my favorite project from Sean, who is my favorite rapper, as a lot of you guys already know. But I think Kendrick's verse really stood out on this one, and it almost sounded like he was thinking the world actually might end in 2012, or that he might not be around for that long. I don't know. It had a really eerie feeling. He had a sense of urgency. I gotta climb these effing charts. I gotta do something that's innovative, creative, just to create a legacy before death do us part. I gotta find, cause I ain't wanna vote. I promise I know the history of those who died for the rights for me to survive, but those who lied to the minority will make them turn inside their grave. I can easily pretend like y'all, but that's not me. I gotta spread the truth even when the truth can hurt. The youths need to know every detail about this earth. The devil controls it. So before you scrutinize how I feel as God, if the poll is important, the end is near. The way he said the end is near was so eerie to me at that time. And even on Grow Up Fast, you can hear Cole say Big Sean was in the building. And apparently, Big Sean, J. Cole, and Meek Mill were working on a joint EP together that we obviously never got. But Cole was supposed to be on Burn with Meek Mill and Big Sean, which, of course, never happened. Cole probably has like 7 collab projects that are just set. Apparently, he was working on one potentially with Miguel. Cole, we need this music. Let the vault go in the same way that you're letting out these stories on Inevitable. Let the music out. There's so much. Just one day for the people. Come on. Drake hopped on Meek's song Amen, marking their first official collaboration, which would also end up on Meek's debut album. And some of the video was shot on the Club Paradise tour. You can even see J. Cole in the background here. I do love that song. Kendrick appeared alongside MMG on the song Power Circle, which is an incredible posse cut. I recently chopped it up with Wale and I asked him about this song, and he said that Ross gave them no real heads up about the actual song. He just said, you're going to want to take this one seriously. Let me know who had the best verse on that song in the comments.
You know what I also was listening to right before this was Power Circle? That was crazy. How does that even happen?
All I know is Ross was like, go in on this joint. You don't know who's gonna be on there. You know, he said, you on the road now. I just locked in. Everybody get out the studio. When I heard it all together, I was like, okay, I did exactly what it sounds exactly how it sounds.
That's why I don't even have a favorite verse. Like, I do think there's a top 3 verses.
Me, Gunplay, and Dot.
I have Meek above Gunplay, but Gunplay has the quotables. I've done on you dudes. Time to pee now.
Yeah, time to pee now.
That was great too.
We'll see back.
I might have to put Gunplay above.
Everybody, we'll see back.
Yeah.
Where your plate? Where your lobster? Where your sea bass?
But you had a hook, so that's why I give you like extra credit.
Ross didn't like over-inform us like on stuff. He was like, oh, this song's called this. Boom, if I do your first, whatever, yeah.
Speaking of features, Drake had a pretty insane feature run in 2012 while he was gearing up for his next release. He kept the fans fed and his momentum alive while on tour with features that included songs like Pop That, No Lie with 2 Chainz, Round of Applause with Waka, The Zone with The Weeknd, Diced Pineapples with Ross and Wale, and the Aaliyah song Enough Said. At the time, Drake was working on a reported posthumous album with Aaliyah vocals, working on it with 40. It obviously didn't end up coming out in full. But in terms of the features, he said he learned this tactic from Lil Wayne in terms of keeping the fans fed on his off-cycle time. Big Biz even called Drake a 99 overall player during this feature run. But the buzz surrounding Kendrick's album kept growing, and at this point, people were anticipating this album to be something special. The album initially leaked, which Kendrick said did bother him at first, and at that time, there were real worries with the leak that if it didn't live up to the hype, that people weren't going to buy it as much. But true fans were waiting it out. Even J. Cole said he waited to listen to this album until the day it dropped. I did too. I went to Walmart, I bought the CD, I listened in my car, I kicked the seat back, had my eyes closed and listened to the whole thing and remember seeing it vividly like a movie. I can still see in my mind the images that I had when I was first listening to that album. But let me know where you were when you first heard Good Kid Maad City and what your initial thoughts were. And in anticipation of the album on October 20th, Kendrick dropped The Heart Part 3. The song was titled Will You Let It Die? And on it, Kendrick asked the listener a question. Will you let hip-hop die, or will you support it by keeping it alive and going out to get his album? Kendrick said on that song, when the whole world see you as Pac reincarnated, that's enough pressure to live your whole life sedated, find the tallest building in Vegas and jump off it, but I could never rewrite history in a coffin, so I'm talking to God, can you wash all these demons off me? And if they said that I'm the one, why you asking me? Because when the whole world see you as Pac reincarnated, enough pressure to make you just open the book of David and pray to God that you make it or live your life in the Matrix, because falling off is a sickness. I heard that it's quite contagious. I need to separate myself to stand out. It's funny because on Buried Alive, Kendrick references the Matrix as well, where he said, felt like the initiation, a reality living in the Matrix. So it's interesting that that could even be a callback to what he was experiencing on Buried Alive on Drake's album. Keep in mind at this time, even though Drake sold a ton and of course Cole sold well with his debut album, we still weren't out of the era where sales determined what your next projects would be like, especially the budgets that went toward them. Kendrick had a lot riding on this album, but also the future of other artists who took the craft as seriously as Kendrick did too. That's why he phrased it as the fate of hip-hop lying in the hands of this album, and the audience had that choice. But hip-hop lived, and Good Kid Maad City sold 242,000 copies in its first week, becoming the highest selling first week for a male hip-hop artist that year. And it only grew in success, going platinum after 3 months. Even afterwards, people were calling it an instant classic, and Kendrick was like,
it ain't classic yet. You gotta be at least 10 years.
But this video of him performing Money Trees at Best Buy for the first time is a certified classic for sure.
And that's a lifestyle that we never knew. Don't wait a reverend for the revenue. Hallelujah. What? Hallelujah. What? Pick your poison, tell me what you do.
Drake called Good Kid the last great conceptual album. He said, I feel like the music that I write is utilized in life. It would be tough for me to go into conceptual storytelling. The last great concept album was Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid Maad City, still obviously true to his life, but very conceptual. Very specific stories that need to be told. I always say hats off to that album. That album's incredible. What an undertaking. There are rappers that are good at telling stories about people that aren't themselves. There are people that have vast imaginations to go and make up a story just to achieve a point. I draw off life experiences. And this wasn't just Drake's sentiment. Other people felt this way about the way Drake rapped and the way Kendrick rapped, specifically in a Complex article about Kendrick the day Good Kid Maad City dropped. They said, Lamar's particular take on the art of storytelling, seeing the past as a window into the present, separates him from many of his peers. Consider Drake, who mostly raps about his current position on the timeline of his life as he lives it now. His raps have the urgency and nakedness of a diary entry read immediately after it was written. Lamar's approach is the opposite. To fully grasp the MC in 2012, you have to have known him when he was 12. And J. Cole said that when he heard the album, a lot changed for him. While he was happy for his friend, it only made him reflect on how he wasn't able to deliver on his album. He didn't do what Kendrick had done. He even felt like Kendrick had surpassed him. Not only with his numbers, but in terms of the love he was receiving from fans and his cultural impact with some of those songs. He said, when Kendrick's album dropped, the journey got harder, the mountain got steeper. Because similar to when So Far Gone dropped, where it was like, oh shit, there's another person out there that has the same ambitions as me, it happened like that with Kendrick. It was a feeling of surpassment. It was two indicators that told me. His first week numbers were more than mine. The other thing was we had a show where we were both on the same lineup, and I went before him and he went after me. And as we know from 7 Minute Drill, Cole definitely did think the album was a classic. But beyond that, on his audio series Inevitable, which is incredible by the way, if you haven't listened, I draw a lot of these Cole stories from that podcast where him and his manager are basically telling these amazing stories, and shout out to Scott, he's moderating this, about their entire journey. I'll link that below. But basically he was saying there that he was trying to catch up to Drake already. And now that Kendrick did this with Good Kid Maad City, it felt like Kendrick surpassed him too. So now he's chasing the mainstream success of Drake and the critical acclaim of Kendrick. And he feels like he's almost behind in that race of the big three. But it's also cool to hear how he does reference those two as his reference points throughout his career. So this big three thing, it's real, okay? At least in the minds of these three. But sonically, hearing Good Kid Maad City actually made him rethink his own upcoming album. Cole's biggest dream as an artist growing up was to have an undeniable classic first album similar to Illmatic, but his version, of course, Veilmatic. And while he did it with his mixtapes, seeing Kendrick do that with his actual major label debut album was another reminder that he didn't accomplish that goal. I think that would motivate him to work even harder on Born Sinner and eventually 2014 Forest Hills Drive, which to me is Cole's undeniable classic album. I think the other thing to remember from previous episodes too is that Cole had felt a lot of pressure from Jay-Z and the label in order to make this hit and make his album a certain way, and it ended up compromising the art. Whereas Kendrick would always talk about how Drake kind of just let him do his thing and bring me back the music. And while DJ Head did say that Swimming Pools was the result of Top Dawg wanting a single, even that, he didn't compromise his art for that single. He still, like I said earlier, had that message behind it, and it still fit conceptually into the album. Same with Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe. Same with Backseat Freestyle, which was still conceptually him talking from the 16-year-old perspective, freestyling in the back of the car with his friends. On top of that, while J. Cole let Nas down at the time, Nas said that Kendrick's album was amazing.
When Nas, who dropped an album the same year as you, said that your album was album of the year.
That's crazy.
Did you already know this, I'm sure. You never heard that?
Nah.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Just off the fact, it's Nas,
Exactly.
You can hear the influence of my music. You can hear the influence of my storytelling. For somebody that elite player in this game for so many years, a veteran, as far as longevity, and skill, that's an accomplishment just in words alone.
Won the Super Bowl and Nas the only one. Congratulate me. In a song that can only be described as a victory lap, Kendrick dropped The Jig Is Up right after the album, and it was produced by J. Cole. Cole even described it as a victory lap on that song and claimed Kendrick as king. It was official that for this year, Kendrick had finally taken the crown. Your worst fear is confirmed. We love that you crashed and burned. The real is back. K-Dot, it's your turn. Take your victory lap. King Cole saluting Compton's own King Kendrick. That's the sky is falling, the wind is calling, stand for something or die in the morning. The city, hail King Kendrick Lamar. The world, hail King Kendrick Lamar. He said people that thought Good Kid gon' flop, or that I might go pop, or your B won't drop, knees when my drop, y'all too infatuated with the effing numbers, which make it easy for me to divide and conquer, which I think is also very telling that yes, Kendrick cared about the numbers to some degree, but he wanted to make art and he didn't want to go pop, which is, again, a theme that we're going to be exploring in a couple of later videos.
This Jig Is Up record you did with J. Cole.
Yeah.
It was done in one night.
Probably a few hours before it came out.
A few hours before it came out, you guys dropped it.
Yeah, just spontaneous, go in the studio and just, have fun.
That song was actually done a couple hours before it came out, so clearly Cole and Kendrick were hanging out right after the album release. And the collab album was still on the table at this point.
I know you and Cole got stuff in the can.
We got stash box.
A stash box.
A little stash box.
I mean, listen, I know that you get this question all the time about J. Cole collabo mixtape album. Realistically, I mean, you guys aren't recording that stuff for nothing. You know what I'm saying?
No, we're not. We're not.
You guys just gonna surprise us one day?
I think that's what it's gonna boil down to.
I don't think you guys should promote it at all. Just one day we're gonna log on to Two Dope Boys and Rap Radar and just see a Kendrick J. Cole mixtape.
Yeah, he got his album coming right now, which is incredible. He just dropped a single, Miss America, so I know everybody going in a frenzy for that, so we probably got to wait.
Speaking of victory laps, Kendrick got the ultimate gift when Jay-Z hopped on the remix of Don't Kill My Vibe the following year. But let's not jump ahead of ourselves. Jay-Z will be involved in the next couple of years. But we can't forget the role that Drake played in Good Kid Maad City and how it connects to his other tour opener, A$AP Rocky. Back to Poetic Justice in just a second. On October 24th, Effin' Problems dropped as a single off of A$AP Rocky's album, and it featured 2 Chainz on the hook alongside Drake and Kendrick on the verses. This would be the last time we would ever hear the two rap on the same song together, and probably the last time we will ever hear it happen. There are actually a bunch of different stories when it comes to the making of Effin' Problems, so I'm only going to go into what was publicly said and the stories that have been told from the multiple perspectives. I'm not going to necessarily jump into conspiracies that do surround this song and Poetic Justice in this video, but let me know if you want me to do a separate video about that stuff. 2 Chainz said he recorded a hard-ass verse for the song, which Drake then chopped up for the hook alongside 40 on the production. But since Drake wasn't in album cycle, he said he wanted to give it to a popping artist at the time, and the first person he thought of was Kendrick. Initially, Kendrick pitched Drake on Poetic Justice for his album, but Drake said he actually wanted to get on Effin' Problems and wanted Kendrick to put that on his debut album. Drake felt like Poetic Justice was the typical soft song for him to get on and wanted to switch it up. But once Kendrick explained the concept of his album and how it all tied together, he told Drake it wouldn't fit anywhere on the album and still wanted him on Poetic Justice. And he did record a verse there. But why let a hit record go to waste? So instead, Drake offered it to his second tour opener, A$AP. In this same interview, he actually called Kendrick a genuine friend. DJ Head on The Bigger Picture actually said that it was Kendrick who gave away a hit record with Effin' Problems, but when I tweeted about this and the song recently, Punch from TDE replied and said this: "From what I remember, Drake had the record first with the 2 Chainz hook. He wanted Dot to use it for his album, and he was going to put a verse on it instead of doing Poetic Justice. He also wanted to put Rocky on it, so Dot did a verse and told him to give it to Rocky and to still do Poetic Justice." Then producer 1985 replied to my tweet and said, "The actual story is that Drake made the song and gave it to Rocky. Drake literally produced the song with 40. This is the first time Drake publicly used the name Champagne Papi. It's produced by 40 and C Papi." And if you look on the credits, it's true. C Papi is listed as a producer, and that might be because of the way Drake chopped up that sample and put 2 Chainz on the hook. A$AP said that the song was like a Club Paradise reunion tour record. What I am really curious about is what happened on that tour, or if something happened to get in the way of Drake and Kendrick's friendship, because it's clear that during that tour, they're both speaking highly of each other and seem to have at least a relationship. Did Kendrick see something behind the scenes? Did something happen? Did Drake say something to him? Did him and Drake just have a natural falling out? Maybe they just didn't vibe that much once they spent more time together. That happens too. But one interesting thing that is worth noting is that when I spoke to Glasses Malone during an episode of The Bigger Picture, I asked him about when people actually knew that Drake had ghostwriters, specifically when Kendrick might have known this. And Glasses said it would have been around 2011, 2012, which would have been right around the time that this tour happened. At that time, were there rumblings that you knew of within the Cash Money crew that you knew he had people working with him, or it wasn't till later that you had heard those rumors?
The first person that brought it to my attention, and I don't know if this right to snitch on him, is Dot. Dot is the first person that brought it to my attention.
Do you think Kendrick, when he said that to you, was he disappointed? Like, because basically, like, yeah, I've been studying this whole, like, was Kendrick disappointed?
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I called the nigga a liar.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's a fact.
I didn't quite understand what pop meant, like what pop was. Like, now I'm like, God damn it, you know what I mean? It make perfect sense. But when he first said that, I was like, hell no, man, I'm watching this dude do his thing. Like, you know, at that time, I'm still just kind of looking at him like somebody else at the label. You know what I mean? Like, shit, Tiger writing his own shit, Nick writing her own shit. Like, I'm thinking Cuz doing the same. And when Dot said it, remember, then I heard King Kunta. So I'm like, this is about Cuz.
So one theory I do have is that Kendrick would have been looking at Drake as the guy who did have the crown for their generation at that point, and he really did want it. And he was willing to work his ass off to make sure that he was viewed by his generation as that guy. But Glasses said that once Kendrick found that out, he was very disappointed. And doing all this research, hearing Kendrick speak about how he wanted to be the greatest, I could see him actually genuinely being crushed, especially if I was crushed as a fan that Drake had writers when I found that out. Kendrick, who had worked with Dr. Dre at this point, who has had a bunch of ghostwriters in the past, but he looked at him more as a producer. It's not like he was shocked that ghostwriting happened. He even said he came in the game as a ghostwriter, which I didn't know exactly who he was referring to when he said that. But I think he was looking at his generation and his competition. He had listed Drake as his competition as well as a peer. I think he was looking at them like, damn, I thought you were doing the exact same thing that I was doing in the sense of putting in this work with the pen. And once he realized he wasn't in the same way that Kendrick was, I think he might have actually genuinely been disappointed. Now, that still doesn't, to me, justify any sort of like hatred towards him. So I think something else had to have happened. I think disappointment is different than disdain. And maybe the Control verse the next year and everything that would happen to follow that, you know, amplified his feelings and Drake taking that in a sensitive manner. But I don't know, let me know if you think something else happened on this tour, or if any of the reactors have any other information. Feel free to add that to the story. Now, in terms of the Poetic Justice song, it fit perfectly into the context of Kendrick's album and did become a hit song. It reached number 26 on the US Billboard Hot 100 and number 6 on Billboard's Hot Rap Songs list. And the song is 2 times platinum. Now, there is a whole theory here, and shout out to Anthony and his wife for coming up with this, that involves Kendrick being Drake's ghostwriter and writing Drake's verse on Poetic Justice for him. Now, I'm not going to dive into that theory in this specific video, but one thing that I think is interesting no matter what, even when you do think of Drake writing this verse himself, Kendrick could have known that Drake had ghostwriters at this time if we go by Glasses Malone's timeline. So having the line in there, that's basically the pre-hook line, which I wouldn't consider ghostwriting, but a lot of times if a hook has a pre-chorus, a singer or a rapper will repeat it just in terms of the structure of the song. But to have those bars in there where he says, I can never right my wrongs unless I write them down for real, Kendrick may have done that intentionally, and it may have been for Drake to diss himself in that specific bar. But it would be interesting if Drake knew that Kendrick knew, then that would be something as a rapper I feel like Drake would question, like, yo, why'd you put this line in here? Do you know? So I can't imagine that Drake knew Kendrick knew. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. This whole thing is kind of strange to me, and there's a lot of missing pieces still. So let me know what you think about this whole thing in the comments, and if you want me to do a separate video about this, I will. In an interview with VH1 at the time, Kendrick said that him and Drake's verses are about specific people. He said, my vibe with Drake is real cool. This track was really bringing out the best of pulling out pure honesty on a track. We're talking about specific people. That's something he's great at, and something I figure myself at being great at, you know, just telling the story. The music video for Poetic Justice is super interesting as well, and shout out to Anthony for pointing this out in their video. It does say enemigo on screen right before Drake's verse, which in Spanish is enemy. So I don't know. That is an interesting thing to place on screen during that video. Again, I don't know. Kendrick is very intentional, so I'd be interested to know why he put that on screen. Also to note, in the video, Kendrick did want to make it a point to have a darker skinned woman as the lead in the music video. He even said this, I always kept in the back of my mind, like, you don't ever see this tone of a woman in videos. No disrespect, I love all women, period. But at the same time, I still feel like it needs that balance. In December, Kendrick also featured on A$AP's One Train on another one of the best posse cuts of all time. But I personally think Big Crit had the best verse on that. Let me know who you thought in the comments below had the best verse on One Train. But the next year gets even more interesting. In 2013, Drake is working on Nothing Was the Same. Cole is working on Born Sinner, and his competition with Kanye heats up, and Kendrick's competitive spirit heats up the entire game. While Kendrick has the crown in 2012, The Big Three is getting more competitive by the year. Next year, you won't want to miss. But that is it for this video. If you did enjoy this, let me know your favorite part in the comments below or your thoughts. Hit the like button. Share this with somebody who loves any one of these artists or the Big Three in general, or just is a big hip hop fan, and subscribe so you don't miss the next year. It'll be right here when it's out so you can watch it. Dream good, live better. I appreciate you if nobody else has told you yet today. Peace.